its Office of Palestinian Affairs, which was a dedicated channel to Washington, D.C. The U.S. officially shut down its Office of Palestinian Affairs in Jerusalem on May 16th. This systematically eliminated a direct diplomatic channel between Palestinians, D.C., and the United States. And it's effectively eliminating the Palestinians' dedicated diplomatic channel to Washington. And it's essentially, it reflects Trump's downgrading of relations between the U.S. and Palestine. This is a continuation, essentially, of Trump's policy, which he started during his first administration, which Jared Kushner was a big part of. But essentially, this is kind of why October 7th happened. It's these sorts of actions, which started with Trump essentially moving the embassy, the Israeli embassy, the U.S. embassy to Israel, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which is obviously a dispute, a major dispute between Palestine and Israel. Jerusalem is set to be the capital of the Palestinian state if it were to ever come into existence along the 1967 borders. And so by Trump moving the embassy back during his first administration to Jerusalem, it was essentially a nail in the coffin of any discussion of Palestinian statehood. And then, of course, he launched the Abraham Accords, which circumvented the Palestinians, completely ignored them as a party to negotiate with, whether it's Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, and try to get the Arab states in the region to normalize with them. And as you know, the UAE, Morocco, and Bahrain did normalize with the state of Israel. And this is what essentially caused Hamas to carry out October 7th because of the fact that the United States was essentially making clear that they wanted no part of a Palestinian state. And this has, obviously produced the chaos we've seen over the last few months and years. So just so you know, the office essentially existed as a diplomatic channel with the United States, and it existed in Washington, D.C. It has now been shut down, and it's being merged into the U.S. Embassy. So now anything to do with Palestine is essentially being absorbed by the U.S. Embassy to Israel, and is essentially just another nail in the coffin. We already know Trump's true position on Palestine. He serves Israel. He serves the Zionists. But just having this office get closed down and officially absorbed by the embassy is just more confirmation of that. So the Palestinian Affairs Office is meant to be merged with the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. The capital of Israel was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in December 2017, as promoted under Trump's first presidency. The Jerusalem consulate was also closed down during his first presidency in January of 2019, and it was also merged with the U.S. Embassy. So, as you know, Trump has been a longtime friend of Netanyahu, and he has been serving his interests and Israel's interests from the very beginning. So any discussion of a rift between the two is nonsense. Trump serves Israel 110%. So, yeah, unfortunately, there's that. Now, this comes with an increase in tensions. Obviously, Israel has been murdering more and more Palestinians ever since the breaking of the ceasefire a few months ago. But it's just been escalating, getting worse and worse. Today or yesterday, there was footage of a little girl in a school that was bombed and burned, and she nearly burnt to death. Luckily, she survived, but with burns. Very traumatizing event. And today we learned that Israel murdered 2 Red Cross workers at their home. Okay, so they didn't target them in the street or anything like that. They targeted them at their home, knowing that they were Red Cross workers, which is obviously just one more escalation to add to the bucket of escalations that they've produced. And they bombed a Gaza City school, and at least 30 people have been burned and killed in the attack, as you guys saw. So closing this Palestine Affairs Office it's an extra level of evil, not just because it's a continuation of the diplomatic failure that has essentially condemned the Palestinians to being second-class, subhuman, goyim citizens of the state of Israel, living under occupation and apartheid and genocide and ethnic cleansing, but it's extra evil because at this moment in time when Palestinians are starving to death in Gaza, the Palestine Affairs Office in D.C. was used to facilitate discussions of ceasefire and discussions of humanitarian aid. And actually, it's what helped contribute to the release of the American-Israeli Edon Alexander, who was released that in the negotiations that Witkoff duped Hamas into when he said that we would bring aid and we would, restart negotiations. That was a lie. Obviously, they got Edon Alexander back for nothing in exchange. So, yeah, it's just really horrible and evil, to carry something out like that at this moment in time when more diplomacy is needed, more discussions are needed. The office needs to exist. Instead, it gets shut down and just absorbed into the U.S. Embassy to Israel so that Israel can control all Palestinian affairs. And, yeah, so it's just a really bad time to do so, but it just reflects, I think, Trump's true nature and his true position. So a lot of people, I think, now are no longer confused about Trump's position. There was another rumor today that Trump had a heated phone call with Netanyahu. I think that's all nonsense. At the end of the day, forget the words. The actions like this, shutting down the office, I think reveal a lot about Trump's true position on Israel. So the U.S. ambassador responsible for the responsibilities that were previously held by the Office of Palestinian Affairs, that is Mike Huckabee. Now, Mike Huckabee, as you know, is a diehard Zionist, Christian Zionist. This man believes all sorts of absurd things, and he's trying to bring about the rapture by having Israel become a state powerful enough to essentially control all Palestinian affairs and destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque and replace it with the Third Temple so that Jesus Christ can return and either eliminate all non-Christians or convert everyone to Christianity. That's what Mike Huckabee believes. And he has a record, obviously, of denying Palestinian identity, rejecting their statehood, and obviously he's been perpetuating genocidal propaganda. So let's go ahead and listen to this clip from him here talking about Palestine.
Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Israel. This past weekend, Dr. Hanan Balki, who is the regional coordinator for the WHO for the Eastern Mediterranean region, called upon me to put more pressure on Israel to bring humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. I appreciate the message from Dr. Balki, and today what I would like to suggest is that we work together on putting the pressure where it really belongs, on Hamas, to give us the opportunity to open up those humanitarian channels. So we call upon Hamas to sign an agreement so that humanitarian aid can flow into Gaza to the people who desperately need it. When that happens and hostages are released, which is an urgent matter for all of us, then we hope that that humanitarian aid will flow and flow freely, knowing that it will be done without Hamas being able to confiscate and abuse their own people by not allowing those resources to get to the people who desperately need it.
So just more gaslighting, more nonsense from Mike Huckabee. Obviously, it was reported today there was an interview with, I believe her name is Cindy McCain, but she was John McCain's wife. She's a widow. Obviously, John McCain died. And she is the head of the World Food Program. And she did an interview, I believe, with Meet the Press. And they asked her if it was true that Hamas was stealing aid, and she said no. She said no, this is not true. She said the reason why you see people trying to loot aid is because of the fact that they are desperate, that these people are starving and they need aid desperately. And that's why you see people trying to steal it, because there isn't enough getting in, and so they're so desperate to eat and to provide for their families that they're looting these trucks. And so she basically confirmed that it isn't Hamas. That was a lie. And you're hearing it direct from the woman leading the World Food Program, which obviously raises a lot of questions. Why would she take this position? This obviously would anger the Zionists, but so perhaps it's a sign that, the momentum in the media is shifting, and we, I think, have seen enough evidence to understand that. I think people really just want to wipe their hands clean because they know that people are starving to death, babies are starving to death. This is a genocide. It's one of the worst we've ever seen. In fact, it's probably the worst. It's definitely the worst we've ever seen because we've never seen it documented like this before. This is a very unique moment in history. But I think a lot of people are trying to wipe their hands clean. So McCain basically came out and said, no, Hamas is not stealing the aid. And there was another report that talked about how Israel was arming, funding, and training gangs on the street of Gaza, and they were bombing and killing with the use of drones and fighter jets and helicopters, anyone that would threaten them. And they were protecting these people essentially so that they could loot and steal the aid themselves. So Israel is funding and arming and creating the problem and then condemning Hamas for it. And it's all designed just to create division and discord and to continuously starve the people of Gaza so they can achieve their real goal, which we've heard clearly communicated by Benjamin Netanyahu and Bezalel Smotrich and others, where they say the goal is to pretend to allow aid in, pretend to reduce the killing while they continue to kill and continue to starve so they can eventually relocate everyone in Gaza. They don't want to thin the population by a couple percent. They want everyone gone. Their goal is to squeeze and kick everyone out. And so they're punishing and tormenting the people of Gaza. It's the nastiest form of collective punishment that we've ever seen. And this is, unfortunately, what's happening. So when you see Mike Huckabee straight up lie to you and say that Hamas needs to stop torturing their own people and starving them, it's just a new form of evil, and it's a new low for Mike Huckabee, unfortunately.